Deep in the heart of the ancient forest, where the trees whispered secrets, and the wind carried the scent of wildflowers, stood a tree unlike any other. Its bark glistened with a faint golden hue, and its leaves shimmered with a light that seemed to come from within. The villagers spoke of it only in hushed tones, for it was said that this tree held great power that could change the fate of anyone who found it. One day a young girl named Elara, who lived in a small cottage at the edge of the forest, heard the story of the magical tree from her grandmother. Elara had always been curious and adventurous, and the thought of a tree with magical powers intrigued her. She decided that she would find this tree and discover its secrets no matter what. As the first light of dawn broke through the canopy of the forest, Elara set out on her journey. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling underfoot. She followed a narrow path that wound deeper into the woods. The air grew cooler, and the shadows longer. As she ventured further in, soon she reached a clearing where the trees were taller and their trunks wider than any she had ever seen before. In the center of the clearing stood the magical tree. It was even more magnificent than she had imagined. Its branches stretched high into the sky, and its roots twisted and curled like the veins of the earth itself. Elara approached the tree cautiously, her heart pounding with excitement. As she got closer, she noticed that the tree's bark seemed to pulse with a gentle rhythm, as if it were alive in a way that no other tree was. Suddenly the ground beneath her feet began to tremble, and a low rumbling sound echoed through the clearing. The tree's branches began to sway even though there was no wind. Elara took a step back, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. Then the tree began to speak, its voice deep and ancient, resonating through the air. "You have found me, young one," the tree said, its voice filled with a kind of wisdom that only the oldest beings possess. "But beware, for those who seek my power must prove themselves worthy." Elara swallowed hard, her curiosity mixed with a growing sense of dread. She had not expected the tree to speak, let alone challenge her. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The tree's leaves rustled as if considering her question. "You must face the trials of the forest," the tree replied. "If you succeed, the power you seek will be yours. But if you fail, the forest will claim you forever." Elara felt a chill run down her spine. But she knew there was no turning back now. She nodded, determined to prove herself. The first trial began as the tree's roots slowly retreated, revealing a dark tunnel that led deep underground. Elara took a deep breath and entered the tunnel. The air was thick with the scent of earth, and the only sound was the soft drip of water echoing through the darkness. She moved cautiously, her hands tracing the walls of the tunnel as she descended deeper into the earth. After what felt like hours, Elara emerged into a vast cavern. The walls glittered with crystals that cast a soft light over the scene. Before her, a wide river ran through the cavern, its waters dark and turbulent. On the other side of the river stood a door carved from stone with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change. As she looked at them, she knew that to reach the door, she would have to cross the river. As she approached the river's edge, she saw that there were stepping stones leading across the water, but each stone was spaced far apart, and the river's current was strong. She hesitated, knowing that one wrong step could send her plunging into the depths below. But she also knew that she had to continue. She took a deep breath and leaped onto the first stone. The stone wobbled beneath her weight, and she struggled to keep her balance. She took another leap, then another, each time barely making it to the next stone. As she reached the final stone, the river surged with renewed force, and she found herself up with all her strength. She managed to hoist herself onto the stone and finally reached the other side. Breathing heavily, Elara approached the stone door. The patterns on its surface seemed to shift and twist in response to her presence, as if the door itself was alive. She reached out and touched the door, her fingers tracing the strange symbols. Suddenly the door began to glow with a soft light, and with a low groan it slowly swung open. Beyond the door lay a dense forest filled with trees that towered above her, their branches entwined to form a canopy that blocked out the sky. The air was thick with mist, and the sounds of the forest were muffled, as if the very atmosphere was heavy with magic. Elara stepped into the forest, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. She could feel the magic all around her, seeping into her very bones. As she ventured deeper into the enchanted forest, the trees seemed to close in around her, their branches twisting and turning like living creatures. Suddenly, she heard a low growl from the shadows ahead. Her breath caught in her throat as a pair of glowing eyes appeared between the trees. A massive creature, with fur as black as night and teeth as sharp as knives, stepped into the light. Elara knew that this was the second trial. She had to face the creature without hesitation. She reached for a nearby branch and broke it off, using it as a makeshift weapon. The creature snarled and lunged at her, but she was quick. She dodged its attack and swung the branch with all her might, striking the creature across its side. The creature roared in pain, but did not back down. Instead, it circled her, its eyes never leaving hers. Elara could feel the sweat dripping down her face as she prepared for the creature's next move. The forest around her seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The creature lunged again, this time aiming for her throat. But Elara was ready. She dropped to the ground and rolled out of the way, then sprang to her feet and struck the creature again, this time hitting it square in the chest. The creature let out a final roar before collapsing to the ground, its body dissolving into mist that quickly dissipated into the air. Elara stood there panting with exhaustion and relief. She had passed the second trial. But she knew that her journey was not yet over. She had to keep moving. She had to find the source of the magic. As she continued through the forest, the mist began to clear, and she found herself in a small glade. In the center of the glade stood a stone altar covered in ancient runes that glowed with an otherworldly light. On the altar rested a single seed, glowing with the same golden light as the magical tree. Elara knew that this seed was the source of the tree's power. The final trial was to claim it. She approached the altar, her hand outstretched to take the seed. But as she reached for it, the ground beneath her feet began to shake violently. The trees around the glade twisted and contorted as if in agony, and the sky above darkened with storm clouds. A powerful wind whipped through the glade, threatening to tear everything apart. Elara knew that she had to act quickly, or she would be lost forever. With all her strength, she grabbed the seed and held it tightly to her chest. The moment she did, everything around her went still. The wind stopped, the trees ceased their movement, and the sky cleared. The glade was peaceful once more. The runes on the altar faded, and the power of the seed flowed into Elara, filling her with a warmth and energy she had never felt before. She had done it. She had passed the trials and claimed the power of the magical tree. But as she stood there holding the seed, she realized that the power was not hers to keep. She knew that the seed belonged to the tree, and that it was her duty to return it. She turned and made her way back through the forest, retracing her steps through the cavern and up the tunnel until she emerged once more into clearing. The magical tree stood before her, its golden leaves shimmering in the sunlight. Elara approached the tree and placed the seed at its roots. As soon as she did, the tree's bark began to glow with a brilliant light that spread up through its branches and out into the leaves. The tree seemed to sigh with relief, as if it had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The tree's voice echoed through the clearing once more. "You have proven yourself worthy, young one," the tree said, its tone filled with gratitude and pride. "You have restored my power, and in doing so you have ensured the safety of this forest for generations to come." Elara smiled, her heart filled with a sense of accomplishment and peace. As she turned to leave the clearing, the tree's voice called out to her once more, "Remember, young one, the true power lies not in what you possess, but in what you give." And with that final piece of wisdom, the tree fell silent once more, its magic now part of the forest forever. Elara returned to her village, carrying with her the memories of her journey and the knowledge that she had done something truly remarkable. She knew that she would never forget the lessons she had learned from the magical tree, and that she would carry its wisdom with her for the rest of her life. Subscribe and share. Thanks for watching. If you like our story, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends. Stay tuned for more exciting adventures and stories.